QueenAger Pat with Take 21. Today I want to talk to you about celiac disease. I've been called celiac disease, but it's celiac. Celiac disease is a genetic problem. You're born with it. It wasn't fully understood until the 1950s, and that's when before that, a child would be born and the doctors would say, oh, it's sickly. It's a sickly child. And the child would have no energy and would not thrive. And it was first noticed during the Second World War that these sickly children in Holland and in the Netherlands, when they didn't have flour to make bread, so the people were making bread out of grass and other things that they could find. And all of a sudden, these sickly children started to thrive because they weren't eating wheat. They weren't eating wheat, rye, and barley, which are the main ingredients that have gluten in them, which cause damage to people who have celiac disease. So that's when they first started saying, well, there's something wrong. What's causing these children to thrive when they can't get bread, which is the staff of life, and these children can't get the staff of life, and yet they're doing better than they were when there was bread. Okay, so this is when they first discovered it. So what celiac is your body is not able to handle gluten. Gluten is a protein that is in many foods, but it's everywhere. Gluten is everywhere, but it's just like yeast. It's everywhere. But the main foods that it's in is wheat, rye, and barley. Those are the main three things that gluten is in. And if you eat anything with gluten in it, your body will not digest properly. And often what happens, it's called a malabsorption disease. And what will happen is you won't thrive. Now, I think I've had it all my life, and I didn't know what was wrong with me. There are many, many, many symptoms of celiac disease. One of the main ones is diarrhea and bloating and gastro problems, okay? And that's because that's the organ that it affects the most is your intestines. And what it does, in your small intestines, there's these little hair-like things, these little villi, and these little villi, the gluten does something to them and makes them lie flat. So the food just passes right through and doesn't get, none of the nutrients in the food gets attached to these little villas and gets absorbed into your body. So that's why you don't thrive, because you just don't get it. But it affects a lot of other symptoms in your body. And I was diagnosed with this in 2002. And I'm sure I've had it all my life, because I've always had digestive problems. I used to be sick to my stomach one day a week, every week. And I've had constipation and diarrhea off and on, which is IBS, irritable bowel syndrome. I've had that all my life. But there are other symptoms that show celiac disease. And I want to go over that because a friend of mine who had celiac disease, and she kept saying, Pat, you have celiac disease. And I said, no, I don't. I don't have diarrhea. So I did have some diarrhea, but I didn't have a lot of it. I was fatigued all the time. I was sleeping all the time. I was sleeping 16 hours a day. I was very pale in my skin, very ghost-like. I was so pale, no color at all. And I had these terrible headaches one day a week. There's other things that I had that now that I look back and I can see brain fog. I had brain fog. I mean, there were days my brain just would not work. And I still have that a lot. But anyway, I think that has to do with old age right now. But those symptoms, I think I've had them all my life. Now, if you do not look after celiac disease and you have it, it can lead to bowel cancer. Okay, so that's the bottom line. You either die of not thriving, or you can die of bowel cancer, or you just be miserable all your life. Dealing with celiac disease is an ongoing thing. It's the same as diabetes. You have to look after yourself. But I want to touch on, I just found out another symptom that I have that I didn't realize I have. So I just want to go over, I want to tell you about some of the symptoms of celiac disease. Abdominal bloating and pain, chronic diarrhea, vomiting, constipation, pale and foul-smelling stools or fatty stool, iron deficiency, anemia. That's how they caught it with me. The doctor thought I had a bleeding ulcer, and when they went in with they did both the colonoscopy and the endoscopy, and they found it with the endoscopy, because the endoscopy goes down past your stomach into the duodenum, and that's where they found that the villas were flat, and that I was not absorbing any of the nutrients from the food I was eating. Another symptom of celiac disease is weight loss. A lot of people who have celiac disease, there's nothing to them. They're just boned, barely boned. Not me. I gained weight. And that's another symptom. That's another sign of it. If you gain weight, I was eating and eating and eating, trying to get nutrients, and I was gaining fat. Fatigue, it's another thing. I was sleeping 16 hours a day. Irritability and behavior issues, and I have that. I had irritable. Another one is dental enamel defects or in the permanent teeth, and you see that more in young children. Delayed growth. Usually people who have celiac disease are short. And I'm short. I'm only 5 feet tall, but I have a lot of ancestors that were short too. So I don't know whether my short stature has to do with celiac disease or just because that's my family history. Delayed growth, I did not have that. I matured at age 12. Failure to thrive. Another sign of celiac disease is ADHD, hyperactivity, attention deficit hyperactivity, unable to concentrate. But the symptom that I just learned about is joint problems. And I have this now. I ache all over. And the least little thing, and it's got to do with nutrients and just not getting enough nutrients. It can also affect your bone, it can make you have weak bones, which I did have. Until I got off gluten. I was osteoporosis. It can cause a liver disorder. I don't know that I have that. Neurological problems, inflammation of the nerves. I believe my dad had that. He called it neuralgia pains, and he would get a sharp pain. He'd be sitting there talking to you, and all of a sudden he'd go like this, and he'd have a real sharp pain. And I really think that he had a problem with it. Reproductive problems. With celiac disease, you have to be very, very careful that you are getting all your nutrients. And some of the nutrients that you miss out on is zinc. Zinc can make a big difference if you're missing out on zinc, and that's, you have to look for it. You have to look for that in your foods. Dr. Peter Ford did a thing on a celiac meeting one time, and it showed he did a little test on zinc, and I was way out over my zinc. So those are, and it made a difference once I got zinc into my system. I felt better. So those are some of the symptoms of celiac disease. To control your celiac disease, you can't have anything with gluten. So that's wheat, rye, and barley. What products are those things in? Almost all your bread. You have to buy certain bread. Now you have to be very careful about where the bread or any of those products are made, because if they're made in a kitchen where they make other bread with wheat in it, if a gluten-free bread is made in the same dishes, in the same bread maker that you've made wheat in it, you're going to get it contaminated. And that's where you get into your trouble. A lot of liquors, wine, some of the wines, the things that they use to preserve the wines have gluten in them. So you got to be careful of your wines. You got to be careful of some of your spirits. So, rye is made out of rye, so you can't eat it. You can't drink that. You have to be very, very careful. Oats is a big thing. At one time they thought oats was gluten, had a lot of gluten, but no, they don't. Oats does not have gluten in them, or does not have the gluten that will affect us. But what does happen with oats is that they are often manufactured in the same facilities, in the same grinding facilities as wheat, rye, or barley. And so a lot of the oats are contaminated. Now you can't take a chance. You can say, well, I can eat this oats. It may be halfway through the grinding and all the gluten is ground out of it. Don't take a chance, because if you get gluten in your system, it will take a month for your system to heal, to get back to normal again. So that's my story about celiac disease. It's not a pleasant disease. It's smelly, because your stools smell bad, and it's not nice because you're just tired all the time, you're smelly, and it's not a nice disease. However, you can live with it, and you can thrive with it, and you meet other people that also have it. And with our day and age, with the way there's so many preservatives in food, that a lot of people are giving up gluten anyway. So there's a lot of stuff out there now. A lot of stuff is out there that's gluten-free, and you can enjoy your life just as well as anybody else. But I just want to tell you that gluten is not a good thing. For me, it's not. You may be okay with it, but for me, gluten is a bad news. So that's it for QueenAger Pat. Next week, I hope to be able to start teaching you how to do some YouTube videos. I'll see. Okay? Thank you for watching. Bye now.